Good afternoon and welcome to Muskegon Rotary. My name is Tim Arter. I am the immediate past president. I'm filling in for Dave Alexander, who's out of town. Today's program will be the importance of planning. We will begin with a Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a reflection from Darlene Collet. We will do the four-way test at the end of the meeting. And so at this time, let's please say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Darlene.
Good afternoon. I'm even shorter than he is. Boop. One of the greatest things my parents, and especially my grandfather, who basically babysat for me till I began school, as both my parents worked, they taught me the value of generosity. I learned that if you can help others, you should help them. I also learned that we all have something to give for those in need, even if we're in need ourselves. Being generous isn't just about giving people money. A helping hand can come in the form of your time, energy, or even just a compassionate shoulder for a friend to lean on.
Well done, Darlene. You can return to your seats, and I'll be back to you in a little while. Members, if you have guests today, please bring forward your guests. And any visiting Rotarians, please come forward. Excuse me, we got to announce it. Hold on a second. Okay, go.
Okay. Hi, I'm Emma Peterson, and I have with me today my guest, Allison Dial, who recently started working with us at the Trinity Health Office of Philanthropy. She's joined us before as a guest, and she's happy to be back again today.
Big shout out to Roger and Dave up on Beaver Island watching today. The crowd's a little unruly today, guys. You know, we have to scold them when you get back. So this is Stuart Jones. He's with Grand Valley State University. He's the new director for Anniswater Research Institute.
Hello, Rotarians. I am Michelle Lipka with 5 Star Real Estate here in Muskegon, and with me today I have my great friend, Lisa German. She is a loan officer with Lake Michigan Credit Union. Hoping I can talk her into membership. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. This is Kat Heider, representing myself for the time being. And I have Leslie Forenzo with me with Business Speaking Solutions. She's from Grand Rapids, looking to connect with local businesses to help them with their speech performance. Please welcome Leslie.
Hi, I'm Dwana Thompson with the City of Muskegon, and I brought as my guest today Ken Grant, who currently serves as the Finance Director for the City of Muskegon. He's a native of Detroit, and he's been with the city for 28 years, and he graduated from Grand Valley State University, and he currently serves the community with the Housing Commission, Muskegon Community College Foundation Board, and as a member of the National Forum for Black Public Administrators.
Step in the squares here.
You're looking good.
Step in the square. Well, hello everybody. This is my baby boy, the little guy. Yeah, he's our general manager. He handles everything while I take my siestas and come into work late. So his name is Cameron, and He hadn't seen what I do some days, and he thought I went home on Thursdays as well, but I proved to him I come here, so, thank you.
You know, I should say something nasty about that, but I won't because I've heard that my entire life, and I've shrunk another inch or two as I've gotten older. I'm Bob Skolnick, former best president of this Muskegon Rotary Club. My guest today is Karen Kukulak, who is soon to be a member, but I don't know, something has slowed it down a little bit, but she'll be a member soon. She's an attorney, co-owner of Indigro, 2 small kids at home, and a wonderful person. So.
Thank you. At this time, I'll turn the podium over to Emma Peterson to introduce and moderate the program.
Good afternoon. I'll wait for my panelists to get up here. So happy to be here. Tim mentioned it briefly, but the name of the topic, planning for the future, I'm sure could mean a lot to a lot of different people. But we're going to talk about what that means, whether it's planning for the future of your family, for retirement, for leaving a lasting legacy. But regardless, it gives you peace of mind, and it makes it much easier for your families when you're no longer here. So my name is Emma Peterson. Many of you know that I'm the Director of Philanthropy at Trinity Health Muskegon. The hospital has a really rich history of donors leaving estate gifts to support our patients and growing the health care of our community. So I'm honored to share the stage with these 3. Let's see, they are longtime Rotary members and local professionals with decades of experience, and they each have a unique perspective on the topics that we're going to touch on. And before I introduce Jay Wallace Jr., I have been asked to read the following statement. The moderator of this panel and Edward Jones have an existing business relationship. This event is not a testimonial of the services provided by Edward Jones' financial advisor, Jay Wallace. With that, we will share that Jay is a financial advisor with Edward Jones. He works with clients to grow and manage their wealth over time. Next, we have Heidi Seitzema, who is the VP of Development and Donor Services at the Community Foundation for Muskegon County, and she works with donors to make a meaningful impact through their charitable giving. And last but certainly not least is Marika Dobry, an estate planning attorney with Warner Norcross Judd, and Marika helps individuals protect their assets and ensure their wishes are honored. And with that, we can jump into the conversation. So we are not going to have every panelist answer every question unless they want to or choose to. They're going to play off each other and add on to ideas and statements that the others make. But I think for this first question, we'll kick it off with Marika. And it is, why is it important for people to start planning early? And really, what is early? Whether it's for their finances, their estates, their charitable giving. What does that mean?
What a great question, Emma. So a lot of people ask, when should I start thinking about this? And the answer is now. But if you have 18-year-old children, your 18-year-old children should start thinking about this, because as parents, as we watch our children grow and we help them make decisions and we, offer guidance, that ability to assist them in financial matters, with financial aid for college, with healthcare decisions, terminates automatically on their 18th birthday. So I like to remind folks that when you are 18, you need to start looking at this. If you are a parent and you have young children, we need to think about appointing a guardian or a conservator if something happens to you, because it's the other legal parent or guardian that would take over. But what happens after that? Who's your decision maker? The other thing you have to think about is you don't have to have $1 million. So don't wait until you have $1 million to think that this is important. Spending a little bit of time and effort now saves a whole heck of a lot of time and effort if you don't have a plan after you die.
Thanks, Merica. Either of you like to add onto that? No? Okay. I will add, this is very timely because I'm actually Frank and I are revamping our estate plan right now, and I have an 18-year-old daughter, and I actually handed her the packet last night and said, you need to read this because this is regarding your choices, and please read it before, I just sign, or before you sign it without ever having reviewed it. So I'm glad to be a part of that and be thinking about that.
And I will add, it wasn't until our third kid turned 18 that it occurred to me, maybe we're supposed to have something in place, which we finally did. So do it before we did.
Perfect. Okay, next, I think we'll go to Jay and just talk about, obviously you three know each other personally, but in general, when you're working with clients, how do you work holistically together with the different realms of finance, accounting, charitable? I'm looking at you for finance. I'm like, wait, what's the other word? But how do you work holistically together? Because we know you do, but also with any of the professionals that are helping your clients.
Yeah, there's another part of the professional team that's not up here to be your tax preparer. Is a very important part of this as well. But it might start with somebody saying, I ask in every review, do you have a will? Do you have financial and healthcare power of attorneys? Do you have a trust? When is the last time it was updated? I ask those questions, and I think a lot of people have some misconceptions about what each thing gets you. They might say, I need a trust. Well, you might not actually need a trust. Or they'll say, I'm all good, I have a will. And I'll tell them, the trust helps avoid probate and allows you to control money after you're gone. The will is a letter to the probate judge, right? So there's a little bit of difference there, and you really need to talk with an estate planner to tell them what your goals are, what you have. And I prepare them with a nice report with all their beneficiaries, and so their assets and their beneficiaries, and I imagine that makes things go smoother in the office.
So helpful.
With the estate planner, but we need to work together, and then it goes back the other way. Once you've created a trust, you're only halfway there. You have to tell your financial institution to title things in the name of the trust. If there's nothing in it, it doesn't do anything, right? So either title assets in the name of the trust or make the trust your beneficiary. So I've got minor children, and the trust would be a lot bigger if we weren't here because of life insurance and things like that. But my wife and I are each other's beneficiaries, but the trust is the contingent beneficiary because I would want that money taken care of in a certain way until they're adults, right? So you really need to work with the estate planner, tell them what you want, and then after it's done, follow through by doing all that titling and updating beneficiaries. And then when you get to the giving part of it, working with Heidi to, I'll refer people over and, they've got something on their heart. And I'll say, well, you need to talk to Heidi. She can tell you how to get that done. Donor advised funds are great. They provide such a good tax advantage. A lot of people have NVIDIA stock or Microsoft or Apple that's appreciated a lot, and they're still writing checks to church or charities. You could be giving, in a lot of cases, you could be giving those shares to the charity, and you would not pay the capital gain, and you might get a write-off for a donation as well. So, working with the tax preparer, with Heidi, with the estate planner, it's all goes together.
I was just going to say, part of my process is to ask clients, do you have these professionals in your life that you're working with? And if they do, I ask for an introduction if they're comfortable, because as Jay said, it does me no good if I don't understand the financial picture. And it does the community foundation no good if you can't plan for gifts. And we don't have to know specifics, but ballparks are helpful.
I would say too, we definitely work very closely with the attorneys in town and financial advisors, and it's so helpful for us, community foundation, but also any charity that you might be wanting to support, whether it's them directly or whether it's through something at the community foundation, to have us know that you're working with someone else and be willing to share that information. We usually talk to people, hey, if you want to plan a future gift, We can help you with lots of that, but you have to work with your attorney and or your financial advisor in order to make the gift happen. They're the ones who can make the gift happen. Then you talk with us or with the other charities to talk about the impact of what you want that gift to do, and we can help put the fine tune on that. You know, I think Emma mentioned when we were starting conversations about what we would cover in this panel, she's like, you know, hardly anybody supports just one nonprofit. You know, if you're supporting one and giving charitably, you're probably giving to all kinds of different places in town. And, you know, we can help to streamline that and make sure that your wishes are documented and well written out in a letter of intent, such that when you're updating things with your attorney or your financial advisor, you can just name one charitable thing in those legal documents, and then we can help work out all the details of the causes that you want to support. And when you want to tweak those, you don't necessarily have to update your official legal documents. You can just work with us. So communication is key.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I just, one other thing that I think maybe Jay or Heidi, if you want to start touch on too, but when we're talking about planning those charitable gifts, potentially maybe while you're alive, but for after you're gone, can you talk a little bit about IRA qualified charitable distributions and why those are so kind of good to do, with a good way to give away money?
I mean, at 70 and a half, you could
Yes.
start doing qualified charitable distributions from your IRA. And so you would give this pre-tax money that's never been taxed before to a charity, and you'll, in effect, never pay taxes on it.
Yep.
And so that's a really efficient way. And when I talk to people about they're giving, almost everybody, you know, gives donations at church or has something they care about. And so that's a really good way to support those causes that I think a lot of people maybe don't know about or don't think about.
Yeah, I would just add to that, as I'm looking out at the faces, I know many of you, you know, if you're of the age, are already taking advantage of this tool, but it's a tremendous way to be able to give back, to support something that you love in this community, not have to pay tax on it by taking it, and then also you get that tax benefit then, whether you're someone who gives enough or has enough expenses that you itemize your deductions. This is totally separate from that, so it's something that you can get the tax benefit from regardless of what your other situation is. And then it also, when you're thinking, if you're giving of those IRA assets during your lifetime, it's also a great way to think about, you know, maybe if I do want to do some charitable giving through my estate, through my plans, changing the beneficiary designations on those IRA accounts to, you know, maybe include your family, you know, the people that are important to you, obviously. But that's also a great vehicle to do your giving back with, because if your heirs inherit that money, they have to pay tax on that, and it can be pretty steep. But if a portion of those assets after you're gone and don't need them anymore goes directly to charity, the charity does not pay tax on that. And so your kids can inherit your other assets for free, but using those IRA and retirement account assets for your charitable giving can be a really easy way to make the impact that you want.
One other thing I would say, back to the communication issue, if you are planning to give a non-traditional asset to a charity, they have the right to say no. And so who has ever received a gift from a family member that you're like, oh, great, thanks so much. Like, now I don't know what to do. Mom, that's never happened. It's totally fine. Never been a thing. Not every charity is set up to accept gifts of real property or a boat or a car that barely runs or your stuff. And maybe they don't want that art collection that your, you know, grandparent really collected over years and years, and it's sentimental but not necessarily important for a collector's item. So that's another good reason to please reach out to your charitable partners before you make these plans, or allow your professionals to assist you with that, so that we can guide those gifts the way that they need to be made.
Absolutely, thank you. Okay, I know we've touched a little bit on this through just the conversation, but if someone in the room today has not done anything yet, right? They're like, oh my gosh, where do I even start? Who do I talk to first? What would you say, America? What would be a first step for someone that either hasn't planned anything or they did something 25 years ago, they don't even know where the documents exist, who the attorney was that did it the first time? Where do people start?
That's also a really good question. And the answer is if you have an attorney in your life or a trusted advisor, start with them. If you don't have an attorney, but you have a financial advisor, call them up and say, hey, Jay, I don't know where to start. I guarantee that we've got a network of professionals that can help you. There's also, and don't tell Warner I said this, but as Heidi knows, it's Make a Will Month, and there are resources online. When you go to the doctor, they ask you, do you have an advance directive? Take those forms. They're free. Review them with your professional, but you can start with something that's available to you and just have that reviewed. And so if you're worried about cost, that's an excellent place to start. I cannot stress enough, if you don't understand it, please do not sign it. Ask somebody to help you with that. You have a huge network of professionals in this room that are available to help and ask questions. Please tap your network and let us help you.
Yeah, I'd love to add on to that. So at the Community Foundation, we've learned in recent years that only 1 in 3 Americans on average actually has up-to-date plans in place, which is a pretty bad number. That's not very many. And in Black and Brown communities and other marginalized communities, that number is even less. It's more like 10 to 20%. And reasons for that can be procrastination, can be fear of cost, not knowing who to talk to, not knowing how to start, but sometimes just not having the information, not knowing that you need to start. All kinds of things can be barriers. So the Community Foundation is, equity and making this an equitable community is part of the important work that we're striving to do. So to try to help change those statistics, we have partnered with an online platform called freewill.com. And it is not designed to take away at all from the importance of working with the trusted professionals in this community, but it is a place where you can go online, freewill.com/Muskegon Foundation. You can actually create a will, you can create the advanced healthcare directives, you can create the durable financial powers of attorney, and it walks you through the questions that you need to think about. When you get to the end and you're like, I have no idea what I just did, because that's what I felt when I got through it. Don't sign it. But there's a button that says print my wishes, and then you can take it to America and take it to your attorney. But it's a place where you can start and helps you prompt with the really important questions from the comfort of your lazy boy, rather than sitting in the really nice chairs in America's office. So
They're very nice.
they're very nice.
And from my end, I would just say, please, please, please have beneficiaries on your retirement accounts. If you have a non-retirement account, you can do a TOD, transfer on death. At the bank, they call it POD, pay on death. A lot of things can have beneficiaries on them that will allow you to avoid probate. Your wishes are known. That 401k that's at that job 2 jobs ago when you were married to that other person, check that beneficiary. Might have the wrong person on it, and but those are really easy free ways to make sure those things are buttoned up.
The other thing, and not every family can do this, but if you have the opportunity to sit down and talk to your family when your family is visiting on for the summer, if you're sitting on the beach, if you have everybody home at Thanksgiving or Christmas, make sure your children know where to find your documents if you have them. Because we keep an eye on obituaries, we keep an eye on that, but I don't always know who to notify or where to go. So if your children know where your important information is in your home, then if something happens to you, the transition is more seamless. So I encourage communication whenever possible.
Absolutely. And I think that kind of feeds into my next question, which is, what if you don't have any of these things. What does that look like? We know it involves probate court, but I mean, it's a very, I have an uncle right now who has an estate going through probate court, and he could have very easily had beneficiaries named on things. But what does that look like, the alternative, if you don't have plans in place?
All right, well, so I guess it depends on the size of the estate. There are some procedures that we can cut down on the amount of time spent, but typically if we're dealing with an estate where somebody dies with assets in his or her name alone, and that's what probate is, assets in your name alone when you die, with no beneficiaries and no transfer on death. That means that we are under the supervision of the probate court, and we can do that formally or informally, but it is at least a 4-month process because you have to notify creditors, you have to pay out all the legally enforceable debts, you have to notify all of the heirs at law, and you may be estranged from some of your family. You may not want to designate. I have an estate with 77 beneficiaries, and it could have all been avoided with a little, just a teeny weeny bit of advanced planning, but this gentleman died, and then various members of his family died, and it is a very large, prolific family, shall we say. So we are now in 4th generation heirs. And that's very expensive and very time consuming. And by the time we're done, there's not going to be much left because it took so long and so much effort to gain control of what little there was. So again, it doesn't take a lot. Look around your table. I guarantee someone has a recommendation for someone they know. If not, we're up here, we can help you. But I see a lot of my colleagues in the room. And, just please don't wait, because we can fix it if we have time to do that.
Thanks, Merica. I think does anyone have any last takeaways, items they want to share with the room? If you could say or do one thing, do this, that hasn't already been shared. Okay.
Don't sign it if you don't understand it. Please don't sign it if you don't know what it is.
And don't wait. It's not as hard as you think to get started. Just make that first phone call. We mentioned August is Make a Will Month. Everybody loves a good fake holiday, right? So if it was on your to-do list in January, your New Year's resolution, this is your reminder that you still have time to get it done before the end of the year. So just start. And in terms of planning for charitable stuff, if you already have your attorney and your financial advisor and you have some plans in place, but you're thinking about something charitable for lots of different organizations in the community, we are a free conversation and cup of bad office coffee, and I think we're delightful to talk with. We would be more than happy to have a conversation with you to help you think about what your impact you want to leave is.
That's fantastic. And I just want to say, as someone who works for a nonprofit, and I know we have lots of folks in the room who work for nonprofits that do rely on donors to help fund their mission and the work they do within the community, that it is fantastic. And we rely on and thank our professional advisors in the community when they do ask the question, when they do help their clients leave something charitable if they'd like to do that. Because sometimes people don't do it just because they've never been asked. They don't think to do it. But then once they're asked, they're like, oh, yeah, I definitely want to support the Art Museum or the Community Foundation or the hospital. And also, we all know, too, that when people die, they typically have more assets to give away than they do during their lifetime. So sometimes that is something that is easier for them to do once they're passed. So I appreciate how much it is a team effort, I think especially in our community. We all know that we rise together. So really appreciate everyone up here. Thank you to the panelists for sharing their experiences, their insights. We know that this planning can create a peace of mind, not only for yourself, but for your heirs. And like I said, I can speak to that. But also, again, communicate as you're comfortable. Share with the organizations you're supporting, share with your family. It just makes it a much more peaceful time when you pass for them to just grieve and not have to worry about what to do with your money. So again, do it today. You don't have to do it alone. You've got plenty of people in the room, the people up here. Grateful, thank you for your time for listening. And at that point, I think we will open it up for questions. Perfect.
Hi, I just wanted to say one thing. Coming from the financial background, power of attorneys are null and void once the person's deceased. But my question is how often do you think we should revisit our wills or our trusts? I know I usually regenerate a budget or redo a budget every year. Should we also then incorporate looking at my trust and what's in there?
So typically, I say every 3 to 5 years, you should pull your documents out and make sure they still match your wishes. However, if you have a major life event, a birth, a death, or your financial circumstances change, you win the lottery, go team, those are big events and you should double check that. In general, the Uniform Power of Attorney Act was enacted here in the state of Michigan, and it has not invalidated your existing powers of attorney. But it has been a really good opportunity for we as attorneys to reevaluate our clients' documents. And so I would say if you have not pulled your binder or your folder or you haven't started your planning, this is a really good time to look at that, because we've got some changes in the legislature, the big beautiful bill or whatever the heck you want to call it. And we've got all kinds of other things that have come down the pike, the Uniform Power of Attorney Act being one of them as well, with estate tax exemptions and things like that. It's a great opportunity and a good reminder for us as professionals and you guys as, our clients to please, pull them out and look at them. But generally 3 to 5 years is what I recommend.
Thanks for the presentation, friends. It was really great. Lisa Tyler. I want to talk it's more a comment and then a question about healthcare advocacy. Unfortunately, my mom passed last year and it was very unexpected. And fortunately, I was her healthcare advocate. But the importance of talking so that you understand what somebody wants. So when I had to make a decision to not prolong life, I knew 100% that's what she would want. But it's so important as well, as you said, with our kids, because as Emma pointed out, 18, my kids are 24 and 26, and I don't have them having health care forms filled out. Am I correct, Merrick or others, that legally the medical profession doesn't have to share information if, heaven forbid, something happens with them, even though I'm their parent? Is that inaccurate?
That is accurate. So HIPAA and privacy concerns, once you turn 18, you are an emancipated adult, and no one else has the right to assist you. So if you do not have powers of attorney for healthcare and finances, then we have to go to court. If you become incapacitated, to have a guardian or a conservator appointed. And hopefully that's a smooth process, but sometimes that is contested, and that is a nightmare for the family who's already dealing with an incapacitated loved one to then now have to fight for control. And so those of us that remember the Terry Schiavo case, this is a case in point where you had an adult without powers of attorney. Actually, she had them, but there were some issues with that. But documentation is really key. So healthcare powers of attorney are extremely important.
You all started the conversation out, Kendra Robinson, sorry, about taxes. And I just had a quick question. My mother's always been very open about what she wanted to do and what she didn't want to do with her stuff. And she started early putting our names on everything. So she put our names on our house, her bank accounts, and we actively use them. But question, when the time comes that she does pass, will we have to pay taxes on the things that our names are already on?
I would say, I'm not a CPA, but I would say probably not. If it's a joint account, maybe it's with rights of survivorship. You just go on owning it after the other person passes away. When you inherit investments, right now, if it's not an IRA or a pre-tax account like an annuity, there is step up in cost basis. So if it was a portfolio of stocks, I had a situation years ago where a couple of people came in off the street and they had a stock certificate and they said, we need to sell this. Our mom's in hospice. We need to sell this. And I had to kind of like figure it out because I didn't know them and the name on the certificate wasn't them. And I'm like, wait, what's going on here? But thinking through it, I said, no, you need to deposit this in an account and have your mom make you the beneficiaries because it was a stock certificate for Exxon from 1967. So I'm like, there's gonna be a little capital gain in here, I'm guessing. So if you sell it now, mom has to pay it. If you inherit it, there'll be a step up in cost basis. I saved them tens of thousands of dollars.
Nice job.
So if it is an IRA, that's never been taxed before. So if you inherit that, you will have to take it out if you're non-spouse beneficiary, you'll have to take it out within 10 years and pay taxes on it as you take it out. Annuities can have cost basis and gain. But your answer, I don't think you would pay taxes on bank accounts that your name is on now.
The concern that you might have is if Medicaid or long-term care expenses come into play. If you guys are helping your mom with her finances, right, and paying for groceries, if you guys are withdrawing from that, that's deemed a gift to you. And so all of that would be considered divestment if she applies for Medicaid within 5 years. So we may want to reevaluate that structure depending on your circumstances, but it's time for another conversation.
This is a comment as well as a bit of a question for America, but for most people, their house is their most valuable asset, and people frequently put their house in their joint with right of survivorship with their kids or other relatives. And as a real estate attorney, I've repeatedly had to deal with situations where the family members no longer get along, and then they say, but I don't want my relative or son or daughter to inherit the house, but now I'm locked in with joint with right of survivorship. So can you give me your take on that?
My general feeling is assume the worst and hope for the best. But, Scott, I'm sure you can agree with this, and, all my other fellow attorneys in the room, we do very well when clients like to do stuff for themselves, because then we end up getting involved to unwind the problems that were created that could have been prevented. So typically what we look at is using what's called a ladybird structure, and I'm sure we've seen a lot of us have seen that floating around the internet. I have a lot of clients asking me about that. It's a structure where we essentially create a life estate in the house. So we reserve full rights of control in the property to the owners, and then we name the future owners on the deed as well. But by reserving rights to the existing, homeowner, we can then change that without having to notify the people who were the beneficiaries. So in this case, you've got a mom and a dad and maybe 2 children, and the kids don't get along, and they don't agree that mom and dad should sell the house because they would like to receive the house. If the kids refuse to sell it, then mom and dad have to call Scott and say, okay, now what am I gonna do? How do I quiet their interest? What do we do with that? And instead, we could do mom and dad convey the house to mom and dad, and then to the children if they haven't sold it before they die. So there's options out there. So we can use a trust, we can use a ladybird deed. It just depends on your specifics. Did that answer it?
Can I add one quick thing to that too? The ladybird deed has also been used as a charitable instrument. So we've worked with a couple, Jerry and Liz Garman. They have sons who I think do get along, but they live on opposite sides of the country and aren't intending to come back here and live. And Jerry and Liz used a ladybird deed to convey their house to the community foundation after they're gone to establish their legacy and a fund to support early childhood welfare, because that's what they care about. And their boys were thrilled because they don't have to deal with selling a house or things like that. It comes right to us to do the good thing that they want to do. And that's a strategy we've seen used a few times too. So,
Thank you. All right, I think that's it. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Very well done. wanted to make note that the speaker's honorarium this year will be a Muskegon Rotary Club donation for supplies and materials used by our club members and youth programs and interact clubs as they go on service trips to El Salvador and Honduras. Mike, would you turn to the birthday slide? Well, we have a good list there. Nancy McCarthy, Frank Peterson, Diana Osborne, Sarah Rinsma-Sabiga, Darlene Collet, and Dale Strassler. At this time, my bifocals are playing with me on the last couple lines. So at this time, if you would, we're going to ask Darlene to stand up and get us started. Birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to you. Very good. Oh, thank you for helping me out with this next part. Please consider on your birthday or any other time, doesn't have to be your birthday, contribute to the Caring Connection. You can find the Caring Connection QR code in the rim, and we have some envelopes up front that you can contribute funds that way. Mike, if we would like to move on to the Rotarians in Action, which is going to feature Katie Drake.
My name is Katie Drake, and I have been a part of Muskegon Rotary since 2017. I've been chair of Rewind for like the past 6 months, but officially took over for a year term in July. We meet twice a month, the first and third Thursday typically, unless there's a reason to cancel. And our main focus is youth. The other thing we kind of do is we help a lot with some of the international fundraising projects like El Salvador and sometimes Honduras. Our goal this year is we used to do the chili cook-off, but that's no longer at this point. So we are trying to find a new avenue of fundraising to help students for those trips and to help different Rotary initiatives. I am a part of the staff for the Life Leadership Conference for District 6290. I work there with a bunch of other amazing Rotarians and volunteers where we gather a group of about 100, somewhere between 100 and 150, I think this year was around 120 high school students that show some leadership either potential or they've already established themselves as a leader, and we help to hone in those skills. I think I've been doing that for about 9 years now, so really a great part of my summer. I can't imagine my life without Rotary in it. I've always been tuned in with volunteering and service, and this is one of the organizations that you can see the impact in a lot of places in our town and in our community, and people do good things. And you know, the motto "service above self" is one that I think we could all use some reflection on from time to time, and really remember that, you know, living a good life often involves helping others and sometimes not putting yourself first.
Very good. Okay, and now for announcements. If you have a brief Muskegon Rotary Club announcements from a club committee or a fundraiser or some other event, please come forward, and we ask that you limit your time to 2 minutes. Jamie Sova's coming forward.
Hello, Jamie Sowa. I am here representing the Baker College Rotaract Club, and we are the run coordinators for the Norton Shores 5K in conjunction with the Arts and Drafts Festival. So the race is August 16th. It starts at 8 a.m. We are looking for runners and walkers. One thing that I failed to mention last week is if you are 21 and up, you also get 2 beer tokens to come to the festival later. And if you're under 21, you get a token to get popcorn from Matt's popcorn, so you get kettle corn. So thank you so much. There's QR codes on the back.
Melissa Moore with Reed Muskegon. I have 2 quick announcements, I promise. So the first one is that with a lot of encouragement from Dave Alexander and Jim Fisher, we are relaunching the Rotary Literacy Committee, and I will be chairing that. And Susan Crane as well, encourage that. We'll be meeting after Rotary on August 28th for the first time. So if you're interested in participating and just visioning what we might be able to do, there's so much work to be done, and I think a lot of different ways Rotary can make an impact. So really excited to see where that goes. The second one is that with Greater Muskegon Economic Development and the Muskegon Heights Business Association that Reed Muskegon is a part of, I don't know if any of you have been to downtown Muskegon Heights this summer to see the reconstruction on Broadway, but it has severely impacted the traffic that is coming to businesses. Reed Muskegon is an inconvenience for businesses that rely on income. It's been really difficult. So we are organizing a day to celebrate and focus focus attention on those businesses on Saturday, August 16th from 11 till 3. So a lot of it will be happening right on Peck Street, but also at Corinne's and at Navarro's. As part of the celebration, we will at the City Hall have Dave Ramos's school bus free book truck, and he has asked us for some volunteers to help man that truck during the time of the festival. So if anybody is able to volunteer anytime between 11 and 3 that day on the 16th, and I'll put this in the room as well, if you could reach out to me and let me know, that would be great. And I also want to say thank you to the Rotary DEI Committee for sponsoring the ice cream for the sheriff's free ice cream truck that'll be there. But I want to encourage all of you guys to come down and support those businesses because they could really use your support this summer.
Very good. There will be a Rotary Rewind meeting tonight. Rewind meets at 5:15 at the Core Plaza Vault. Any other announcements coming forward? Okay, at this time I'll call on Josh Silvis to handle the raffle. $20, 723. $624. 624. $703. Okay, we're wrapping up here. Our program next week will be Love Lives Here. And members and guests, if you would please rise, we'll recite the four-way test. Of the things we think, say, or do, is it true? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Well, thank you very much for attending today. We are adjourned.